Hello, I'm Penny Thornton and welcome to my astrology channel. I'm going to be looking at the month of January 2021 for Libra on this video. And I would like to say the year starts as it means to go on, but it doesn't really. And I don't want you to judge this book by its cover. In many ways, we've got a little bit of a continuation going on from 2020 as we come through this first month of the year. One of the things that I think people tend to forget sometimes is that the planets don't know about our calendar. They don't know that we divide things up in years. They just keep moving. And so the alignments continue pretty much in the same vein as they did November, December, which are really, really powerful months. And actually, once we look at your chart here, you'll see why. Let's get your chart up here. And there it is. And I think what I want to draw your attention to as to why these last few months have been so difficult is the fact that all these planets keep being grouped together. Here you are, Libra, which starts the whole of your zodiac circle off. And these planets at the moment are grouped in the fourth and fifth houses of your horoscope. So we're looking very much at things to do with the home and family. But to go back to this idea of when you've got a lot of planets all grouped together, is very intense, very concentrated. And although that does to a certain extent allow you to be a little bit more focused on things that you have to be focused on and you want to be focused on, I think also it means that there's a lot of pressure on you because there's an awful lot going on, both out there in the world and also in your life too. So I want to really talk about these two houses first of all, and then I'll get into the nitty-gritty of some of the kind of important aspects and periods of January. When the sun is in the fourth house, which is what happens as soon as we open with January, we're really at the roots of your chart. We're at the base of everything, the foundations. And so this has a lot to do with your background. It has a lot to do with your family, both the family you've come from and the family you may have created or may be creating. And it has to do also with the foundations of the future. So that is also to do with your plans. And that career can come into that because often when we think about who do we want to be, that does turn into a career matter. But of course, not every Libra has a career or wants one, but still there are things to do with plans that you have for the year ahead, plans that you have for even longer than that. And when the sun is moving through this area of the horoscope, you need to get down, you need to get to the roots of things, but you also need to get down to the foundations of building all the things that you want to have happen during the year. Now, it might also coincide with a time when there is a lot going on within the home and family. Maybe there's a home move planned. You want to, if you have a home, you're thinking of maybe selling and moving on, or maybe renting somewhere else, or maybe you've got people coming to share your home with you, or there are things happening to the family, perhaps kids going to school for the first time, or other kids going to university, maybe grandparents, who knows how many members of the family you have that could suddenly start to be of importance while the sun moves through here. And again, when we do things in a sync with the astrology, we're more successful. So this really is a case of bringing anything to do with the home, property, family, the foundations of the future, those themes, bring them to the forefront of your schedule, of your mind, and get down to them, because this is where the sun's energy, if you like, will give them warmth and light, and they'll get moving. Now, as we move here into the fifth house, which will you can think of happening from about the 19th, we come to more creative things. We think about creative enterprises. We could be in the whole realm of an entrepreneurial venture. We could be, if you're a creative type anyway, maybe you're working on a creative project. But also, I think people forget that you can be creative with finances. You can be creative when you're putting people together for a special event. It's how you put your stamp on it. So when the sun moves through the fifth house of your chart, it's all about me. It's all about putting your stamp on things and making sure your brand that people are aware of your brand. And of course, if you do have any entrepreneurial projects, or you are thinking of starting a business or starting some aspect of a business, it needs your branding. You are the brand, because this has come about at the time when the sun is in this area. But we're also looking at things to do with the family, in the sense of starting a family, procreation as opposed to creation, and also things about your own children if you have them. And it can be that they need a lot of attention, and that therefore you're going to be spending a lot of time with your kids, or talking to them, or involved in their activities. But it could also be that you're thinking of starting or adding to your family. And of course, we all know what that means. But of course, you could become a grandparent or a godparent or an aunt or uncle as well. So, in this kind of January period, those sort of things are occupying the Libra news headlines, so to speak. Now, let's come to a few dates that are important, or maybe we should look at planets rather than dates. And we're really looking at Pluto here. Pluto is a big player in a lot of Librans' lives, but especially if you're born somewhere between about the 15th to the 17th of October. And also, if you have planets and points about the 23 to 26 of Libra, or the cardinal signs, Cancer, Capricorn, and Aries. Um, Pluto, the great transformer, requires something is eliminated, it's let go, so that it creates a space in order for new things to come in and for us to transform. Principally, it is about our growth as, people, and spiritual growth, and psychological growth. So Pluto is about getting rid of patterns that are blocking our progress, transcending them, so that we move on. Those are the kind of words that we want to use with Pluto. And Pluto is a big player all through January. First of all, because Mercury conjoins Pluto on the 5th, then the Sun conjoins Pluto on the 14th, and then finally, on the 28th, Venus conjoins Pluto. And of course, the days before those dates, there's an approach to that conjunction and a separation from it, which is why I say really that the whole of January is about this elimination transformational theme. I think too, especially around the 5th, because it's so near to the Christmas period, and I know Christmas for so many of us wasn't in the least as it should have been. But even so, we tend to make that special, the date, even if we're not with the people we love, we're talking to them, we're virtually connecting. And sometimes, much as we want everything to be wonderful, sometimes what I call the elephant in the living room, comes up and we have to deal with it. And that's what that 5th of January aspect means. It is dealing with the unspeakable, it's dealing with the things that we don't want to deal with. It may also be getting rid of stuff we don't need, and that can be just simply getting rid of the Christmas decorations, but I think it's much more than that. And I think this idea of transformation within your base of life, it's a good time really to look at your 4 square walls and think how you can make them more sympathetic, more of a home. I mean, if we don't have a home and an anchor, and we find respite there, it's not a good place to be in. And sometimes all something needs is a pot of paint and a rearrangement of the furniture. And that too, around the 5th of January, is a good thing to do. But moving on now to the middle of the month, that's around the time of the new moon in Capricorn, and we can see this here too, which is all about new starts, especially on the home front. But with the Sun and Pluto being there as well, this is a new start with a vengeance. This is really kicking out the old and welcoming in the new with knobs on. It's really in your face, in your kitchen, and you've got this theme that I'm talking about, and you will be able to bear it in mind through the month of January. By the time we get to the 19th, there really is a change. And that's because the Sun comes into Aquarius. Of course, Venus will follow. Jupiter and Saturn are already in there, and I've spent quite a lot of time on my year ahead forecast for you, which you can find on my website online, talking about what this means for you in the coming years. It's quite a big and important development. But with the sun moving over this point, and this is what's very exciting here, is that the sun will come to Jupiter, and at the same time there will be a full moon. And that is, we've been talking about creativity, and that is a massive moment for some creative venture. You might begin one, you might be offered one, but because it's a full moon here, and we're talking about 28th, 29th of the month, then there is a sort of ending in there as well. Something has to be closed off before you can move into the future. And the whole of this patch, really, from the 20th right through to the 30th, those 10 days, is a time of enormous activity. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of shifting and moving. And certainly around about the 20th, and this Mars-Uranus conjunction, right on the date that Joe Biden becomes president of the United States, there is such a lot of change. And it's almost like, if things can move fast and shift and move in like, um, you know, ripples, no, waves, yes, then they will. And I think what it's saying is there has to be some almighty changes in all our lives in order for us to really embrace this new Aquarian kind of energy. And so that period will either be one where we voluntarily decide we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to have this anymore. I'm not going to do this. This person isn't going to be in my life anymore. We make some real big edits in our life, which is good. That's what we should be doing. But sometimes those edits are made for us. That's the action of Uranus, the great awakener, the great liberator. But it's good in the long run, even if it is very unstable in those last 10 days of the month. Honestly, once we're through that patch, we should increasingly see that we've been relieved of things that, weren't part of our journey. And we have to embrace that in as positive a manner as we can. So at the end of the month, here we are, we have Mercury turning retrograde at the very end of Capricorn. And we all know about retrograde Mercury. It's a nuisance. So, I mean, to circumvent it, we need to get all our taxes done, and we need to get all the correspondence done way before the 30th, because communications are going to get gummed up after that. And really, in that patch from the 30th through to the 21st of February, we've got to really read our emails several times to make sure we've really understood them and not got the wrong end of the stick. And we need also to keep chasing information and making sure we're taking notes and keeping abreast of, information really. But there will be some blockages that we will have to deal with, whether on a national scale, international scale. But sometimes that's a good thing because it gives us time to really review and reshape what isn't working. And occasionally on a retrograde Mercury, we run into someone we haven't seen for a very long time, which can be wonderful. Or we get taken back to a part of our lives which was precious. And in a good way, Mercury puts us in touch with our past. So all that's left for me to do really is to wish you a very happy new year, and to remind you that I will be with you all through the year, whether it's on these videos or it's on my audios or on my weekly forecasts online. Bye for now.